October the 13th, 2024. Guys, you're looking at amazing images of Comet Atlas. Now, we're looking at it from a satellite that gives us an Earth-facing perspective of the sun. And the sun is not the size of the blue disk, it's the size of the white circle. The blue disk is actually what they call an occulter disk, and it's blocking the glow of the sun so we can see around it, like blocking the sun with your hand so you can look up in the trees or something. But this is Atlas. It's a huge comet, guys, and it's amazing to see these electric universe effects. Now, what you're seeing is a few days ago when we saw it, it looked like it was headed to the sun. But I'm going to show you on the JPL image that it dove behind the sun, and now it's rising back up in front of it, going back out. We'll probably never see it again in our lifetime. But watch the tail of it. This is the tail of the comet. Watch as it gets closer to the sun. Now, the comet's gone. Everything's the whole solar system's moving. Look at that reaction again. That's energized particles. Now, let's take a quick look at spaceweather.com. We watch it all the time. It's one of the links on our website, as well as all the satellites that you see in our videos. They're saying it's a quiet weekend. Earth's magnetic field is calming down after a full day of severe geomagnetic storming on October the 11th. Auroras this weekend are unlikely, even if the sun hurls another fast CME or coronal mass ejection our way. It wouldn't arrive until Tuesday, see impact alerts. But now, what we've been seeing is a lot of CMEs. The most amazing thing that I've seen from it is we were talking about the skies, the auroras turning red instead of the green and blues 2 or 3 years ago. Mike from around the world brought it up on Pastor Paul Begley's channel. And that's what we're seeing now. You see that reddish tint in the background. And this is, again, guys, is from Utah. But in Mexico, a couple nights ago, if I can find that picture, I'm going to put it in the video, they were seeing ultra-red auroras. Now, this is not, this is so far south, guys, that the entire sky was lit up behind the clouds. But I think this red sky happening is a warning that more and more radiation is being poured into our atmosphere. The solar system is heating up because not only the sun, you have gamma ray bursts, you have different things like that. But it's amazing to see what has been going on. Now, if you've been feeling kind of strange for the last couple of days, I know I have, that's because of these geomagnetic storms. We were up over 650, I think, kilometers per second. Very fast, over 1 million miles an hour. But what we're looking at now, let me pull this down. And this is why I went to Comet Atlas, starting this thing out. Let me pull it up. It says, naked eye comet at sunset. When the sun goes down tonight, step outside and look west towards the sunset. You might see a comet. He said, I was driving across Utah and spotted Comet Atlas through the windshield shortly after sunset on October 12th. That was yesterday. This is from Brad Gold Paint. Brad, excellent image. And you can go here and click on this image. It'll give you anything else he's got up in photography. He said, I quickly pulled over at a rest stop, and took this photograph. And this reminds me a lot of Hale Bopp. I remember that comet so well. We were during that week. We were at our cabin out in the country, no light pollution, and this thing was cruising through Hale Bopp. You guys remember it like a science fiction movie? This is probably as close as we're going to get to that. Let me pull it up. The comet was easily visible to the naked eye roughly 15 minutes before this 13-second exposure. The moon helped reveal the rugged canyons of the incredible landscape. It is beautiful up there. Hello, our friend Roy Potter, if you're watching. Many other observers are having similar experiences. Here are some samples. What a treat to see a naked eye comet that was easily visible to our 6-year-old grandson. And they're kind of catching a glance of it with their eyes, pulling up the binoculars, and it becomes very clear. A lot of you have that. You can get some cell phone images, but if you've got a good 35 millimeter or something like that, or camera that attaches to your telescope, these could be amazing. Again, look at this over Utah. And this still has enough glow from the sunset to really not let it show its full brightness. Now, again, guys, we're looking at spaceweather.com, linked on our website, or you can just type that in. Now, this is coming from Paul D. Maley, who sends this picture from Carefree, Arizona. He said, I could see it naked eye beginning 39 minutes after sunset. Look at that. I love Arizona, guys. Beautiful. The politicians are demonic, and maybe some changes are coming, because I think the last election in 2020, a lot of people saw how the cheating was done, and I think one side, the red side, was trying to basically play it fair. You win, you lose, you lose. But on the other side, that had nothing to do with it. But I think a lot of people got woken up by what happened in 2020. Now, if you think about it, if Trump would have won in 2020, would he have kept the traitorous Mike Pence? And then we would be in a very delicate situation right now. So, God has ways of doing things. Now, I know that the politicians are all out for different reasons. But when you're dealing with an extremely smart businessman, this would be his motto. It would be that if I make this country strong and wealthy, then I stay strong and wealthy too. It helps my kids and my grandkids. Do you see the very simple logic, common sense behind that? And that's who you want, someone that is not selfish, and other than he wants to make his country prosperous, so that him and the other businessmen that he's been doing all his life, other countries, stay prosperous too. So when that's happening, there's not a lot of conflict. But we're just going to have to see. But it says this view should improve in the nights ahead as the comet separates itself from the sun and climbs higher in the sunset sky. Prospects are nicely discussed in an article from Nick James of the British Astronomical Association. And you can come here, again, spaceweather.com. It's got a lot of good information. And this is the image I was talking about, Northern Lights in Mexico. Believe it, on the night of October the 10th and the 11th, auroras descended all the way to the tropics. Renee Saad photographed this display from the beach at Mazatlan, Sinaloa. Guys, think about that. Look at how brilliant those skies are. And it looks nice, but it's very dangerous radiation. Let no one deceive you about that. We were warned about it. Again, Mike from around the world, thank you very much. It may have been 5 or 6 years ago we knew this was coming, but our shields get a little bit weaker, and we got Cern kicking full blast right now. Then our shields are pulled down. Our Earth's magnetic field, guys, is delicate, just like our atmosphere. It's thin but very delicate. The Cern's magnetic field is 100,000 times more powerful than the Earth's magnetic field that keeps a lot of things in balance. Think about that, 100,000 times. And that's how, when our Father in heaven designed all of this, all of these planetary objects, all of the motion, all of that he didn't need that much power. He didn't need 100,000 times more power than what CERN's doing. It was such a delicate, fine balance. Everything was just tuned so good. Now, I don't know what CERN's trying to do, but they are weakening our shields. We've reported it a few years back, and they've actually killed that model that we used to report those. But we saw it time and time again, bend the Earth's magnetic field almost all the way into probably 2,000 feet above the surface of the Earth. I'm talking about, it looked like they hit the planet. But this, again, is in Mazatlan, Samoa, Mexico. It says we are 23 degrees north latitude. What that means, guys, is if you're on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, you're at 30 degrees. If you get up around Hattiesburg, you're at 31. You get up around Mississippi, central Mississippi, Jackson, you're at 32. So you just back that down to where they're at. We saw these auroras during the May 10th superstorm. Seeing auroras this far south twice in a year is amazing. That tells you guys that, I hate to bring that up, but our Father told us that this earth will not be washed clean by water, but it will be refined by fire. Things will be heating up. I'm sure I'm enjoying these cooler fall days, even though, guys, today here in central Mississippi, it was very hot. Just it was like bright, brilliant sun, not a lot of wind. Temperature shouldn't be as hot as it feels when you get into it. These are signs of what we're talking about. Let's take a quick look, guys, from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory over in California, I think Pasadena. And they model every object, asteroids, comets, planets, satellites, everything that is picked up on radar. And let me turn this. This is the Earth right here. You can see Mars, the Sun's in the center, Mercury, and Venus. The white line is Comet Atlas. And let me tilt this up. Now, what it has done, you see the white line here, it dove down under the Sun. Now it's rising back up. So if we tilt this up like that, that's why from Earth you're seeing that comet rise. The first couple of cameras or the images that we saw, guys, it looked like it was headed for the Sun, kind of like iSun. But what had happened, let's turn it, it dove down right here up between Earth and Mars orbit. See that? Now it's rising between the orbit of Venus and Mercury, right there in the slot. And we'll turn it back Earth facing. Right there, and that's the images we would be getting. The Earth is in the blue orbit. And see, when you see these different orbits, that's talking about the ecliptic. They're not all exactly the same, but very close. They're in our solar system. But again, Mercury's here. It's got a tilted orbit. And Venus. Now, somewhere I read a long time ago that Mercury was at one time called a comet. It came by the Earth very fast, a couple times, and then got trapped in the Sun's orbit. But anyway, we'll see. Another thing, guys, in the image that we saw from Utah, the comet was coming down in the west, right? And so just something that always catches my attention. If, say, you're sitting outside in your lawn chair looking west, you know you're moving backwards super fast. You're going to rotate around the planet in 24 hours. And so everything that you see along the ecliptic has more to do with your movement on the Earth than what's happening in the sky. But if you were to turn that lawn chair around and look to the morning sunrise in the east, you would be face forward at extremely high speeds. That's amazing, isn't it? But the gravity keeps all of that in line, thank goodness, or we would be orbiting like this comet right here. But let me back it out just a little bit. When you see these things go out, we're all the way out past Neptune now, and then just end up with a couple of lines, they're saying that's out in the far regions, the Oort cloud. But what that's telling you is they really don't know. You know, it's like iSun. They had no idea it was coming. The spectacular images that we got from it, and all the research that was done from the close approach. But this one will never be seen again in our lifetime. And what it's doing to the sun right now, you're seeing explosion after explosion, CME after CME. And it's affecting the sun. You see the reaction, the negative and the positive reacting. See the energized particles blowing past the SOHO cameras. What is it doing to the sun? In the end times, the angel, the fourth angel, will pour his vial out upon the sun. And that something happens. Men are scorched. All of these things make me think about the total plan. Now, I've said this maybe 7 or 8, maybe more than that, maybe that many years, talking about the effect of Cern on our the Earth's shields and what it does in other things. But right now, we're seeing it take advantage of the large input from the sun. You see the red auroras all the way down into Mexico. What you're looking at here is live. If you'll notice your timestamp on the right as it changes, this is UTC time, by the way. Many of you know this. I'm going to go back over it. You have beam 1 in blue. You have beam 2 in red. They circle around a 17-mile loop at super high speeds at temperatures below the outer space and below 2 degrees Celsius. And that has to do with control. These magnets have to be super cool in order to become superconductive controllers. And it's down in that loop. I think it's 400 or 500 feet deep, but it's affecting our shields several thousand feet above the planet. What you're seeing, red and blue lines, again, beam 1 in the blue, beam 2 in the red, when they combined, and that means they're getting very close to each other in the collision, your elevation and your windage is getting very close. When they combine, then the black line is generated. In other words, the black line is the sum of the energy created by the blue and red lines. When they fall like this, you start to see something happening. In other words, the red line had already collapsed. The blue line was trying to operate by itself. In other words, the particles were no longer colliding head on. They weren't getting that luminosity and the other power they wanted. Came back, tried to kick it back in here. The red side, they never could line it up. You set up beam, you see that faults right there. They're saying stable beams, emitted scans. Totem RP moving in. Now let's take a look at beam 1 and beam 2, guys. Booger, you want to... And this is what I was talking about. The blue beam is here. This is your windage. This is your elevation, just like scoping in a rifle. Same here with beam 2, but notice it's not colliding, right? And we've seen it, I think, in the last video. They were colliding. But you've got 17 miles of super magnets that you have to keep, again, this temperature of outer space. And it's always a control thing. You're always like having to adjust something. Again, windage or elevation is the simplest term, but they're not getting it right now. And that's why you're seeing that dropout. When you see these two line up right here, in other words, your elevation would drop down to match the windage. Then you're going to see the collisions, the high power, and luminosity start to develop. Now, let's look at the cryogenics page. This is the temperature. This is what you have to do. You keep it below 2 degrees Celsius so that everything operates as it should. Everything is green. If one of these goes red, then it's going to shut down. What you're looking at is different sections inside the 17-mile loop, and each one is controlled separately, monitored separately, and everything's green to go, but something is not quite letting them get that windage and elevation quite right. It could be because even though their magnetic field that they're generating is 100,000 times more powerful than the planet's, they could be getting some energy they're not quite used to. They're just not getting the collision that they want. Now let's go to the operations page. It's slightly different, but a lot of the same thing. Again, you're watching live. If you check your timestamp out right there, blue and red beams, they were together for a while. You saw the power increase, and what they're trying to do is get 13.5 tera electron volts. This is 6,000 gigavolt and 7,000 gigavolt, but tera electron volts. So I think they're trying to get around 14. So they're not quite at the 17, but when they get it to 13.5. They're colliding both beams very good, and they're getting the luminosity that they want and the power. But because something is messing with it right now, they can't quite tune it in. Maybe it's like the Navy, kind of pay is low, morale is low. Anyway, just kidding. But here, the red couldn't quite get up there. That was the left side of the beam. But the power was still trying to rise. Finally, they both collapsed. Now we're seeing a rise in the red. This is live. You're looking at it. And when the blue gets back up, and it peaked right there for just a second and shut back down, something is not quite balanced. That's what we're dealing with. Another thing I've always said is space weather affects Earth's weather. It has no choice. I mean, you've got a huge mass of a gas planet or gas star blowing high energy through the inner solar system all the way out to the heliosphere. Not just our magnetosphere, but the heliosphere, which is the sun's umbrella, right? When you got all that happening, dynamics are changing. The Earth is tilting slightly. It's tilting to the south, moving the equatorial line to the north, where you have your convergence zone. So it affects it. Now, what we're looking at is a 7-day forecast. This is not something a lot of people want to hear about, and I'm not going to mention it every video until we see some changes. But it's a system here that's very high in altitude, or not altitude, but north. Here's the Cabo Verde Islands. Usually we'll see them form south of there, but not now that we're 150, maybe 60 miles in their tilt. Look at that, guys. This has always come out down here. And we're seeing the greening of Africa further north. And this thing now, because we've got dual high pressure systems colliding, may be trapped in this line. Now, 7-day forecast is shower and thunderstorm activity remains limited with a well-defined area of low pressure located several hundred miles west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Guys, that statement, west of the Cabo Verde Islands, has always been southwest or southeast or south of the Cabo Verde Islands when they start to watch these things like this. The system is currently embedded in an unfavorable environment, and development is not anticipated over the next couple of days. However, this system is forecast to move generally westward to west-southwestward, just like you see in this path, and environmental conditions could become more favorable for additional development by the mid to latter part of this week. A tropical depression could form as the system begins to move west-northwestward and approaches or moves near the Leeward Islands by the end of this week. Again, next 48 hours, 10%, but I'd go over 7 days, 40% chance. Now, the spaghetti model was updated, guys, 26 minutes ago. NavGem has it staying the furthest to the south. Canadian model is right into the center here, coming into this string of islands behind or east of the Bahamas. Everything is staying to the south. Now, normally, and most everything that has formed this far north this year has made a turn north into the North Atlantic, and he's more than likely ended up somewhere in Europe. But right now, because of the high pressure system the high pressure situation that we're dealing with, let me say it like that, that this thing may be steered right into us. Now, it's a wide area of low pressure, but it's in very dry conditions. Probably a little bit of Saharan sand layer and some of the other environmental factors that keep it from forming. They're saying, though, that it may change. Let's take a look at that. And let's take a look at the satellite image. Starting this morning, you could see the system here, and it just keeps getting hit, guys, with very dry air. See it right there? Good rotation, just nothing to work with. And you're seeing actually continuous sections of high pressure. That's what's going to steer it and keep it in this west movement. Where, we're not sure, but most of the models agree it's going to come in here into the Bahamas section. More than likely, that would mean the East Coast somewhere, Florida upward. But again, it's a large section, very dry right now, but this is what they are watching, just to let you know. Now, I don't know if they're watching the system that's in the Caribbean or not. The last two storms have come out of this area. But it also looks like it's getting disbanded, by some wind shear right there in drier conditions. But if the thing keeps moving, again, all this high pressure, you can see it in the clouds right through here, right through there. That's what's going to keep it in this westward line. Guys, we're watching this. You watch it. But again, after sunset, just a few minutes, start looking to the west if you want to take some pictures of a beautiful comet, Comet Atlas. Maybe Atlas won't shrug this time. We'll just have to wait and see, guys. Again, have a great Sunday. Have a great weekend. Our friends in Florida, our friends in the mountains, in the southeast, think about you all day. We pray for you. If I was 10 years younger, I would be up there with you right now, I promise, and getting stuff done. But as you age, you just can't get around quite like you could. But our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we are trying to send as much help as we can get to you. We're watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.